Welcome back to Ghostspire Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Tubi. And let's get to the list.
Super funny.
Kill List is a 2011 British psychological horror movie. Directed by Ben Wheatley, it stars Neil Maskell, Mayanna Buring, and Michael Smiley. 8 months after a disastrous job in Kiev left him mentally and physically scarred, an ex-soldier turned contract killer is pressured into taking a new assignment. This movie is so good. I had never seen it until just recently watching it for this list, and I'm telling you, it's really surprising. It's really well done, but keep in mind it's very much an indie movie, so you're not gonna see anything too over the top. But it does take a really interesting twist that I don't think you'll see coming. It very much caught me off guard, because you can kind of tell throughout the movie that something strange is going on. But once it takes that turn, it turns into something very different. But on top of that, it's just a really well-made movie. It's well acted, directed, the cinematography is great. Just in general, a fantastic little film, and one that I highly recommend.
Super funny.
Spring is a 2014 romantic body horror movie. Directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, it stars Lou Taylor Pucci and Nadia Hilker. The film follows a young man who travels to Italy and pursues a young woman who, unbeknownst to him, is harboring a dangerous secret. So I first saw this a few years ago, and I just fell in love with it right away. It's what really led me down the road of checking out other things by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, which, if you know, you know. Those guys make fantastic, tiny, micro-budget, but well-done movies. And this one is one of my favorites of theirs because it really has a lot of heart. You absolutely just really learn to adore both these characters in this movie because they're both so sweet and so interesting in their own different ways. They both have very different stories that led them to this moment when they meet each other. But what seems like is just going to be this sweet little, almost a rom-com, not super comedy, but definitely has that light-hearted kind of romance kind of thing going on. But it starts to take a turn, and it becomes more and more a horror movie with some body horror and weirdness along the way. So if you've never seen this, I think it's one you definitely need to add to your list.
Super funny.
The Blackcoat's Daughter is a 2015 supernatural horror movie. Written and directed by Osgood Perkins and distributed by A24. It stars Emma Roberts, Kiernan Shipka, and Lauren Hawley. Two girls must battle a mysterious evil force when they get left behind at boarding school over the winter break.
Hey, Dad, just calling to see where you and Mom are, if you're coming.
Worst case, they come on Friday and everyone goes home and has a really nice break. After all, we can't let you live here.
So it's wild. I didn't even know this movie was on Tubi. It's weird how Tubi works a lot of times. There can be really big titles, ones that you hear people talk about all the time, and yet Tubi just doesn't recommend them. And that's why I try so hard to give you guys lists like this, because I'm telling you, there's just a lot of movies that you may not even realize are on there, much less movies that you just don't know about, period. But this is one that a lot of people know about. It was one of their earlier releases that caused some buzz in the horror world. But I'm gonna be honest, I had never seen it because back when this came out, I wasn't big into slow burn kind of horror. It wasn't my jam. I was not really a guy that would sit down and be patient enough to watch a strong dialogue, slow burn, disturbing kind of horror movie like this. So like this and a lot of other ones, they just kind of skip me by. But I sat down and checked it out finally, and wow, I just absolutely love this movie. But definitely keep in mind, like I said, this is really a slow burn. Very much one that deals a lot in dread and uncomfortability and slowly kind of creeps up on you and makes you feel more and more uncomfortable until it comes crashing at the end, which is kind of something that has become a staple for A24. And I gotta tell you, I was kind of surprised at how dark feeling and how disturbing this movie actually gets. It just puts this dark, uncomfortable blanket over you, makes you feel super disturbed and just not right, like just uncomfortable even long after the movie's over. So if that sounds like something you might be into, definitely get on it before it leaves Tubi and check it out.
You're so funny. Funny.
Borgman is a 2013 Dutch psychological drama thriller. Directed by Alex van Warmerdam, it stars Jan Mijvoet and Hadmis Minnis. The story is about a mysterious vagrant who turns the lives of an arrogant upper-class family into a psychological nightmare. So this movie is so bizarre and uncomfortable and just straight up weird. But it's extremely well done. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, but it's not really like almost anything I've ever seen. It has this real dark, uncomfortable, disturbing quality that you just never quite can feel right. You just never really know what's going on or where this is gonna lead to because everything just feels a little off. There's nothing overt, there's nothing super, crazy happening. It's just kind of slowly taking you down this weird journey and gets more and more awkward and disturbing as it goes. But it's a really well-crafted movie. I love the directing style, the way that it's shot, just everything about this movie has this uncomfortably strange but very unique way of going about it. But once again, this is a slow burn. It's not a movie that's wildly over the top. It's one that you gotta kind of slowly stick with as it takes you down this wild road. But if you're into strange, artsy, slow burn indie, then definitely give this a look.
You're so funny. Funny.
Mandy is a 2018 psychedelic action horror movie. Directed by Panos Cosmatos, it stars Nicolas Cage, Andrea Riseborough, and Linus Roche. The film takes place in the Pacific Northwest of 1983, where outsiders Red and Mandy lead a loving and peaceful existence. But their haven is savagely destroyed by a cult led by a sadistic man. This is such a beautiful, interesting, unique movie. And this was my introduction to Panos Cosmatos, who I absolutely love, but has a very unique flair and style about the films that he makes. They all lean into horror, but they also have this psychedelic, unique, very creative way that they're shot, and the cinematography and just the look of them. Very colorful, very creative, artistic, but very different than anything else being done right now. His films are not for everyone though, because they're so psychedelic. The music, it's like this metal 70s kind of music, but everything is also kind of this slow, artsy feel to it as well. So you got to be patient. You got to kind of almost feel like you're stoned to watch his movies. As someone who loves creative expression and unique visuals, I absolutely love his movies, but I also very much understand that they're not for everyone. The other thing about his movies, though, is they're very slow and stoner feeling, right? But then they get to a point where they absolutely go off the deep end, get gory, and very, very horror in the most bloody, brutal, fun way. So his movies are just really bizarre, but I love them, man. And this one in particular, I think is an absolute modern masterpiece because it has such unique style to it. It doesn't feel like anything else I've ever seen. And Nicolas Cage goes out of his mind in this, but in a way that I think Nicolas Cage is perfectly cast to do. But if you've never seen it, buckle up because you're in for a ride. Love it or hate it, you'll come away going, wow, that was an experience. But this is a movie that I absolutely love and I highly, highly recommend it.
Super funny. Funny.
Negotiations over. The sentence is death.
Dredd is a 2012 sci-fi action thriller. Directed by Pete Travis and written by Alex Garland. It's based on the comic strip Judge Dredd and stars Carl Urban, Olivia Thirlby, and Lena Headey. In a violent, futuristic city where the police have the authority of judge, jury, and executioner, a cop teams with a trainee to take down a powerful drug gang.
800 million people living in the ruin of the old world. Only one thing fighting for order in the chaos.
So this movie has never got the love that I think it deserves because it's so fun and unique. And I'm a big fan of Carl Urban, especially now after seeing him on The Boys. He's just fantastic, so full of character. But he plays a pretty different role in this because he's just stone-faced and you don't even really see his face, you only see like the lower half. But he is so amazing in this role, just an absolute badass. But this movie gets creative with the visuals and the way it's shot, the way they use the effects. Yeah, there is definitely CGI used, but I really like it. It's artistic, it's creative and unique, and I'm just there for it. It gets gory and brutal and really doesn't hold back anything, and I love that. This is the kind of thing I love for graphic novel, comic strip type of movies. I'm not a huge Marvel guy. I do watch them, you know, I do enjoy some of the superhero movies, but this is more what I'm talking about, where it gets gory and brutal and just badass. Is this horror? Nah, not really. Don't come for me. This is definitely much more of an action thriller, but I have so much fun with it every time I watch it. So when I saw that it was over on Tubi, I was like, what the hell, and threw it on because I think it deserves more love, damn it. So if you're one of those people that heard the negative comments and so you just skipped it, you might want to check it out because I think you might be pleasantly surprised on how good it actually is.
Super funny. Funny.
Fright Night. If you love being scared, this could be the night of your life. Fright Night.
Fright Night is a 1985 supernatural horror movie. Written and directed by Tom Holland, it stars Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Amanda Bearse, and Roddy McDowall. The story follows young Charlie Brewster, who discovers that his next-door neighbor is a vampire.
Gonna go next door and find his coffin and pound this to his heart.
That's murder, Charlie.
You can't murder a vampire, Amy. They're dead.
So this is one of those movies that I am assuming the majority of the people watching this video have seen it, but every time I see it available on something, I can't help it. I just throw it on there because it's such a classic. It's the epitome of a popcorn horror movie. One that you could just have absolute fun with. You can watch with your kids, maybe not too little, but for the most part, you can watch it with younger people, older people. Just, I think everyone can kind of agree that this movie is a blast because it touches on one of my favorite things growing up with Roddy McDowall, who plays this late night horror host. And I remember growing up, there were always these different late night horror hosts, but I didn't really get to see much TV or movies or whatnot until I was a young teenager. But luckily that was still going. That was still a thing by then. It even is now. You still have Svengoolie out there. You have Joe Bob and Darcy. Like there's still some people doing the late night horror thing still. But not like it was. Back in the day, it was a big deal. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, every area had their local late night horror host. It was very much a thing. And so I love that this movie touches on that with his character. But just the way this movie looks, I love the makeup work and special effects. They hold up. Everything about this movie is just fantastic for a rewatch. It's one of the things I love so much about 80s horror is for whatever reason, maybe it's just my age and stuff that I grew up with or whatever, but to me, 80s especially more than any other era, they just have this rewatchability that you can turn them on whenever, even if they're going in the background, and just give them a rewatch and you will always be entertained by it. So if you're feeling nostalgic or you just want something that you don't have to think much about and be entertained by, this is a fantastic pick, so definitely check it out.
I have been watching over you.
Jessabelle is a 2014 supernatural horror movie, directed by Kevin Gruert and written by Ben Garant. It stars Sarah Snook and Mark Webber. The story is about a young woman who returns to her childhood home to recuperate from a car accident. There she encounters a long-tormented spirit that refuses to let her leave.
Hello, Jessabelle. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. I wanted to give you a reading with my cards. It says here that you're not alone.
So this is a real hidden gem. This is one you just never hear anyone talk about. And is it a game changer? No, I'm not going to go that far, but I think it's very entertaining, and I was pleasantly surprised on just how much I did enjoy it. It is a very small movie with a limited cast, but I really enjoyed the creepy quality. Once again, one of my favorite subgenres is that Louisiana bayou type of horror. Just that creepy kind of folk horror. I eat that up, and this definitely leans into that and gets disturbing, uncomfortable, and very creepy. But it's just a fun little spooky kind of ghost story, not one to overthink, so definitely don't pick it apart. But if you go into it with the right expectations, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised on how much fun you have with it.
You know, I'm not listening.
28 Weeks Later is a 2007 post-apocalyptic horror movie. Directed by Juan Carlos Fandelo, it stars Robert Carlyle, Rose Byrne, and Jeremy Renner. 6 months after the rage virus is inflicted on the population of Great Britain, the US Army helps to secure a small area of London for the survivors to repopulate and start again. But not everything goes according to plan.
You come into direct contact with the infected?
What happened, Dad?
So as much as I love 28 Weeks Later, it did not affect me in the way this one did. And I don't know what it is exactly, but this one upped the ante. Just the speed at which the infected come at you, just the way it looks. This movie is a very harsh, unsettling, not pleasant kind of movie. The characters are not likable. I mean, the main person you are following leaves his wife to die. Like, he's a piece of shit. But just in general, it's very bleak and dark and uncomfortable and disturbing, but so well done. And I've heard a lot of people don't like this one as much as the original. I just feel like they're different movies. I wouldn't say I'd prefer this one over the first or anything like that, but I do know that this one affected me much more. I remember very vividly seeing this in theaters, and just the opening, it's intense as all hell. I don't think I've ever been more on the edge of my seat and felt more exhausted after watching a movie than I did with this. And I still think this absolutely holds up and really deserves to be talked about more, because as much as you hear people talk about 28 Days Later, you just don't hear them talk about 28 Weeks that often. And I'm not sure why exactly that is. So if it's been a while, or if you've never seen 28 Weeks Later, I think it's one that every single fan of horror should check out at least once. This movie is fantastic, and one I definitely think you should put on your list.
They have opened the gate. Pray, it's not too late.
The Gate is a 1987 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Tibor Takats, it stars Stephen Dorff, Louis Tripp, and Krista Denton. The film follows two young boys who accidentally release a horde of demons from their backyard through a large hole in the ground.
I mean, you guys are serious about that demon stuff? Demons, what kind?
So this is a movie that I did not grow up with. I didn't see this until I was fully an adult. I just didn't get to see horror as a kid. But this movie, man, I wish I had grown up with it. because even still, it's just such a beautiful movie. It's like a perfect gateway horror movie. But it does get a little bit crazy and a little bit intense for the little ones. So I understand why it didn't go over gangbusters, because it does have a little bit more teeth than you would say a kid horror movie has. But because the main characters in this movie are so young, like 10, 12 years old, I also think it just didn't go over with adults. They saw that and thought, it's just a kid horror movie, not something I'm gonna dig. So it just kind of fell in the middle, and sadly, it just kind of has been lost to time. But it has started to build a cult following, a pretty diehard one at that, but not like it should, because I think this one should be held up with other movies like Fright Night and The Monster Squad and The Lost Boys and Goonies, just those 80s movies that were kid-eccentric, but still just damn good horror movies or thrillers or mystery adventures, whatever, in their own right. This movie is a blast, man. I absolutely love it. I just rewatched it for the first time in many years, and I still really enjoy it. The practical effects are phenomenal. The reason I was even reminded of it is because this past week on Quarter Crew on YouTube, they actually covered and talked about how they were able to pull off a lot of the special effects in this movie. And it's really interesting, so I definitely recommend going over to Quarter Crew and checking it out, because it's like I said, just the way they were able to pull it off without having CGI at the time, really inventive, creative, and just a lot of fun to watch. But there's so much to love about this. It has a unique style, pacing, flair. It doesn't really feel exactly like anything else. It's just got its own way about it. And I very much appreciate that. It's just a fun movie, a perfect, entertaining movie, I think, for your Saturday night. So do yourself a favor, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week. I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean absolutely so much to me. You literally are keeping me alive at this point. And if you would like to find out how you can support this channel and how you can be a part of the Patreon crew, there's a link down in the description. Or if you want to join the channel and become a member of the channel and get a little cool logo icon, there's a little button right down there that says join. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun! If you enjoyed this, click right here to see my 10 best space horror movies, and I'll see you guys next time!